What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over some of the altcoins and some cryptos. So over the weekend we've had a big announcement from Elon Musk that he is now no longer accepting Bitcoin as payment for Tesla vehicles. It was announced on Twitter, sending both the company's stocks down. So along with the crypto mining stocks, this announcement by Musk has essentially sent the crypto market into a downward trend. So we've had a big sell-off. Tesla added that they won't be selling any of their Bitcoins they own, but the price of Bitcoin still tanked about 5% and is now down even more on the day. So we've had a big sell-off in crypto, upwards, more than 10%. Now we're at 15-20% sell-off. So this is kind of the tweet here. It's like, Bitcoin, we're concerned about the rapidly increased use of fossil fuels for Bitcoin mining and transactions, especially coal, which has the worst emissions of any fuel. Cryptocurrency is a good idea on many levels, and we believe it has a promising future. But this cannot come at a great cost to the environment. Tesla will not be selling any Bitcoin, and we intend to use it for transactions as soon as mining transitions to a more sustainable energy. We are also looking at other cryptocurrencies that use less than 1% of the Bitcoin's energy transactions. So basically, they're trying to lower the cost of greenhouse gas emissions for these mining companies and for mining Bitcoin and for all of these different cryptocurrency networks. They are certainly something that is important for the overall market. And that's why cryptos have been taking a huge tank. If you go watch some of my videos that I put over the past few weeks, you'll know that I was basically saying that Dogecoin was going to sell off after the Saturday Night Live. I made a whole video about it talking about Dogecoin. I explained to you guys exactly what was happening. It was a pump and dump, and you were going to see Dogecoin sell off hard right after the SNL. And what did we get, right? So let's go back a week. So, over the weekend you had the SNL, you had the big hype, and then this week started and boom. And now it's back down to 50 cents. And this is Canadian, so it's a lot less American, talking like 40, 30 cents. And remember what I said, right? I said it was probably going to go back down to these levels, and that if you really wanted Dogecoin, you might be able to buy them at these levels, knowing that when you look at the overall trend, you have support here in these areas, right? When it had this pop, you had this support and resistance in the 40 cent area, 50 cent area. So that's why that as it had this resistance coming up, you're probably going to have support here going down. So you want to understand that, people that were buying down here, right, at 14 cents, were probably selling up here at 45 or at 50. Right, so that's why it's coming down. And then the people that are buying in here at 30 in the 30s are selling, up here in the 50s. Some of them, other ones are holding and maybe averaging down, buying back in here, and then selling once it gets up here, right? So it gets up to 50 again. And then the people that are now buying in here at the 40s are like, okay, we're going to ride this thing up. And then once it gets up to 80, they're all selling, taking 100% profit, right? And this is the thing about this, right? You got to see where people are taking profits, but then you also got to realize kind of the overall trends, support and resistance levels, and the overall news and kind of market. That's how you understand how these coins move. That's how you get a sense of kind of where you should be putting your money and when you should be taking it out, right? So as you know, if you watched the video that I put out on Dogecoin, I talked about how Elon Musk was pumping this up and how almost 100% was going to be a sell-off right after SNL. So you see that overnight, going into May 9th. So May 9th was the Sunday. So the Saturday night was the SNL performance, right? So as you see, going into Saturday, it kind of sells off a little bit. It's kind of sitting around, hovering. And then as soon as the SNL performance is done, it sells off. And it hasn't come back since, right? And this is how they trap new kind of investors and traders, is they put out these big pumps. They pump these things up to get everybody to jump in, and before when they sell, you don't know, so then they're selling at the top, and by the time you know that, oh, everybody sold or nobody else is going to be hyping this, it's way the hell down here, and you bought in, way the hell up here at 70 cents or something, and now it's down to 59, and you're like, oh, is it going to ever come back up, right? And then it doesn't. And will it? It might. Like I said, you got to understand these support and resistance levels, understand that you do have support around the 40 cents Canadian, so this is a Canadian level. Obviously the American levels are going to be different, but this is where you want to kind of keeping your eye on these support levels. Watch how the stock trades around these levels. As you can see, 45 and 50 have been acting as support levels right now, and you can see that those were resistance levels going up. So obviously it's starting to form these patterns. Now it's not a stock, and it doesn't necessarily have, it's still overvalued at 40 cents. So understand that it's still speculation that when you're buying this, there's going to be enough hype behind it to send it to new highs. Tesla, Elon Musk did make some small reference, like he said, this we might look into using other cryptos that don't use as much energy consumption. So people were saying that maybe Dogecoin, he's going to start accepting Dogecoin for payments for Teslas. So we'll see if that happens. Then yeah, you could see this thing go back up to $1, go back up to 80 cents, go back up to wherever, right? But the reality is that without big news like that, without big hype, big kind of institutional or big kind of retail sentiment, this thing is not going to go back up to 80 cents. So understand that, and understand that when I tell you that there's support at 50 and at 45 cents Canadian, I'm not saying to buy it there. I'm saying to recognize that there is support there. So if you were looking to take a quick trade, you might be able to get it in and out, but you really don't want to be focusing too much of your capital on a speculative asset like this, because it's really already way overvalued, right? If this was back down at 7 cents, right, or at 20 cents or something, then maybe you're like, okay, yeah, this thing might get another pop. But at these levels, you look at them, even over the month, you're still up 471% over the month, right? That's still insane, right? So you got to put these things into perspective. 14,000% over the year, right? So having it sell off 36% in the week is really nothing compared to how much it's up, right? Anyway, that's going to be it for Dogecoin. Let's talk about something else. So obviously, when I made my video, one of the main ones that I hyped up was Cardano. I said everybody, get into Cardano, because down in the 130s we had huge support. So this is what I mean by understanding these trends and understanding these support and resistance. This is how you trade these cryptos. This is how you make money from these altcoins. You don't make money from buying something at the top and hoping it's going to go to the moon, right? You just can't make money doing that. You need to be looking at these charts, understanding these trends. Where's the support? Where's the resistance? So overall, and this is Canadian, always remember that my prices are Canadian. American prices are going to be lower than this, but you can see the same trends when you look at the chart in American dollars, right? But as this thing broke up through $1 and $1.20, you'll see that there was a hard resistance level kind of around that 130, right? And then as it broke that one between 130 and 140, right? And as it broke that, it ripped, and then it came back down, and it held support at 130. So every time it dips, and you can see this starting to form higher lows, showing you that it wants to trend to the upside. But what you got to realize is that these dips are all into support levels. So this 132 is your support level, right? So low 130s has been your support level in almost every single one of these dips. So what you could be doing when you're trading these altcoins is, as they break these resistance levels, you buy into support. So you buy this dip into 132, you sell that rip into 172, right? That's a quick 30% winner, right? Off $1,000, that's $300. You sell, you're out, you get back in at 139, right? You hold, you sell to this rip at 185. And this is what I mean by higher lows, right? It doesn't go back down to the 132s because it's starting to form higher lows. So now it's 139, and then it dips up here as 153. But then obviously it breaks that trend and gives you and starts to pull back, but still holds a higher low because it's still higher than this 120, 130 level, right? Even higher than this 135. So it's still on an upward trend. You just had a bit of a harsher pullback, and this is where I bought, right? So I was kind of watching these support and resistance levels form, and then I was looking to get in around the 140s, 150s, kind of in this dip here, because I knew it was kind of forming higher lows. So obviously 135 was my target, but I ended up getting in around the 150. So high 140s, low 150s is kind of my average. But I was looking to kind of buy this and then hold this thing on the ride up. And so as this thing broke $2, I took profits. Now, unfortunately, I took profits a little too early. So yesterday, I think it was, this thing started to sell off hard. So I don't know if it was that sell-off or it was one of these big sell-offs. And I started to look at Ethereum. I started to realize that everything was kind of starting to turn around and you had some really bad press. So I think it was right in this area here, actually. I sold my my Cardano for not all of it. I sold about a third of my position, taking out a few $100s in profits. So I'm still in it with about, I think, 250, upwards of 300 now as it popped today. So I'm still in it with about $300, and I took out just over $100 in profits. So that's kind of, obviously my biggest position is in Ethereum, and I'll go over that in a second. But this was my plan on Cardano, is kind of looking at the trends. I kind of thought that going up into this 215, 220 area, you were going to have hard resistance. And if Ethereum turned over, which it did, you might have a hard sell-off here back down to this level. So I wanted to be taking profits as it popped. Now, I'm still in Cardano for the long run. I still see this as a good play for the next few years. But I'm still going to look to take profits when you have these big rips and these big sell-offs, right? I'm still going to look to take profits. Now, it's crazy how today we see kind of everything else selling off. So Ethereum selling off, Bitcoin selling off, everything's selling off, and Cardano is ripping to new highs. So, look at that. Look at that. To new highs again. Wow, 255. As we speak, guys, as I'm sitting here giving this to you, if Cardano is up 10% in the last hour alone. Wow, more than that, 30 cents. It's up 30 cents, 35 cents at one point in the last hour. Guys, that's nuts. That's nuts. So maybe I'll sell more Cardano here. I don't know. But I definitely sold too early yesterday. Could have had another 40 cents profit. I could have been up almost double, man. So that sucks. But that's what happens sometimes when you try to look at these kind of support and resistance levels and see whether they're going to hold, right? So obviously this sell-off was a false one yesterday, and it caught me taking profits a little too early. Now I was still up 30-40% on the trade. So it's not like I still have a nice win, but yeah, seeing that up to 255 is rough. But anyway, like I said, buy Cardano. I told you guys this at 140. I told it to you at 150. I told it to you at 160, and I've told it to you for the last 2-3 weeks that Cardano is the play. Now, if you guys followed me, and I know a few people did, my cousin bought in at 130. And on the first pop to $2, he didn't sold, unfortunately. I told him sell, and he did. And he's like, I'm going to hold it for the long run. It popped back down to 160. He had a little bit more, and now it's back up. So he could have had a little bit more profits, but at the same time, he's still up huge on his initial investment. And I'm actually going to text him right now and be like, check Cardano, my friend, because you are making good money. And he put quite a decent chunk into Cardano. So this is the play here on Cardano. Like I said, one buy in the 130, sell into the above the $2 range. Now that it's breaking out to new highs, do you want to be buying it at 250? I don't want to be buying it at 250. I'm holding it through 250, and I hope it goes to 3. I hope it goes to 4, but I'm not going to be buying it. I'll be buying a dip if it comes back down to 2. If it breaks down below 2, I think now we're looking at support moving up. So if support's now in the 190s, then I would look for a 190 dip buy. But obviously this is not trading advice. That's just my opinion. That's just from looking at the chart. And yeah, let's go into the next one. So Algorand is the next big one that I talked about that I think is going to do all right. And I still think that Algorand is one of those laggards that hasn't kind of moved with the market. It's actually kind of downtrended since Bitcoin has had that downtrend. But when you look at the overall trend, we're still extremely bearish, right? And when you see these dip buys into these 130, it's almost identical to Cardano, other than the fact that when this dip happened, you didn't have the pop like Cardano had, because Cardano, it did the same pattern, but when it dipped here, instead of selling off more, it ripped. So so Cardano, instead of selling off like Algorand did, it just kept ripping. So, and Cardano has more market cap. It has kind of a more known name, right? It's more popular in the chats. It's more popular overall. So that's probably why you have more volume. That's why you have a bigger rip. But don't underestimate Algorand, and don't underestimate the big moves that Algorand can make. So Algorand, it's kind of been chopping around, kind of been on a downward trend, for the last month, and really the last little bit. But when we think about overall, like what was happening with Cardano, every time it sold off into these support levels, there were big dips, big buyers, right? So now we're starting to find kind of these higher lows forming, and I think that you're gonna find, and I'm in Algorand around 150, so I bought in around 150. Not a huge position, definitely not as much as Cardano and Ethereum, but I have a decent position in Algorand, a few $100s, and it's really just buying around support and selling into resistance. So unfortunately, when it popped here, I didn't sell at this high, or actually no, I didn't get in at that high. No, I got in around somewhere around here. I don't know, right around this area. So it really, it was up maybe about 30 cents from when I bought in. Would have been a decent sell, but I'm still holding. I'm going to be holding Algorand for probably the next few months as well. So we'll see. When you go down and you look at kind of the overall pattern for it, and it doesn't tell you, I'm not logged in on this, unfortunately, so it doesn't tell you kind of the, because it'll tell you a lot of times how long people like to hold it for. So then you'll get a better sentiment of kind of how long people trade this, if people are looking to trade it or invest it. So that's one of the things you want to kind of look at when you look at these is how long people technically hold them and typically hold them. So if they're not holding them for longer than a month or 2 months, then just know that they're trading them. They're not looking as them for long-term investments. So you got to realize that with a lot of these, and there's a lot of ones that have very, very high turnover rates, and you got to be very, very aware of that. So a lot of these, Chainlink was another one of the ones that I went over and that I said probably was a good buy, and that was back in the kind of dip to 50, kind of in this area here, and even before that. So even in this 45, I'm not sure exactly when I made that video, but and I made a couple videos over the last few weeks talking about these stocks or these cryptos, but in this 40 cents area was your real support and resistance. You see back here you had kind of resistance in the 55, kind of anytime it tried to break above the 55 area, it just got hit with hard resistance. So when it broke out here, it kind of had a nice rip, and now it's coming down and holding support near the 55, but that just broke here. So it was holding support in 55, but that just broke here. So now the big question is, and let's look at it in the weekly, is this going to come back up and break above this kind of 55? Because if it holds below 55 in this 56 area especially, then it's into a bearish trend, right? You can start drawing the trend lines going to the downside. And so all the upward support, so you'd see like this upward support here going up, has been broken, and it no longer is holding higher lows and starting to move to the downside. So with Chainlink, you want to be careful, and it is powered, and it is an Ethereum token, so you do want to be aware that it's going to move very similar to Ethereum. Yeah. And the other big one that I talked about a lot was Polygon, and Polygon is going to be probably one of the better plays over the past month has been Polygon. Selling off a bit today, but when I was talking about this, and I was basically giving people the idea that maybe you want to go long, is in this 40 cents area. So when it was in this 45 cents area, I was like, this thing overall, you were just seeing this hard support. So this thing just traded around this hard support of 45 for the longest time. So I was like, when Ethereum dips hard, this thing doesn't dip. This thing just goes a little bit. Like, these were hard dips by Ethereum. This thing goes down like 4 cents. It's like, okay, so buy at the 40 cents and just hold. And if Ethereum goes down, it doesn't really go down. But if Ethereum goes up, it rips. And that's and then it gave you this huge move all the way to $1.50, right? Unfortunately, I was not holding. I was not buying. I just kind of told people that it would be a good area to buy. One of the main reasons why I didn't buy it is because by the time I realized how much it had already moved, it was already over $1. And I was like, oh man, I'm not buying something that just went from 40 cents to over $1. Obviously, it would have been a decent buy because it's already up. It was up 50% after that. But the idea is not to chase. The idea is to be aware that a lot of these are speculative, so they're going to move with a lot of volatility. They're going to go up, they're going to go down. They're not going to just keep in a constant upward trend, although they have been doing that for the past little bit. You're seeing a lot more kind of volatility in these names and kind of the way that they move. Cardano coming all the way back down to 243. So unfortunately, so the last thing I'll talk about is Ethereum. So Ethereum is going to be my biggest play. So we'll go over to my BitBuy account. So this is my Ethereum right now. Now this is so let's get an updated view of it. So this is not all of my Ethereum. This is just my kind of main portfolio. So I was buying Ethereum at about 18. It was about 1,800. That was the price of Ethereum when I was buying Canadian. So about $1,800 Canadian for one Ethereum coin, and I loaded up with about $800, and then I loaded up my Coinbase account with a few $100 with like a little bit more. So I have kind of my Coinbase account where I have money in Ethereum, and I have my BitBuy account where I have money in Ethereum. So this is my BitBuy account. I haven't sold any of this, and I won't be selling any of this. This will be my long-term hold, although it probably would have been decent to sell at 53 when it was up there, but right now I'm still just holding for the long term. I did sell some of my Ethereum. So with Ethereum, when it was kind of giving us this huge kind of fail from 5,000 here, so as this thing kind of rejected, I think it was, I'm not sure exactly where it was, but it was in one of these dips. Like basically, I think when it rejected here and then it kind of bounced up and gave us a nice move back up to 488, I think I took profits. So I think in that bounce there, I took profits in like the 480. And the shitty thing about Coinbase is that when you buy or when you sell, you don't get the price that is given. You get a price either lower or higher so that they can, obviously like fleece you for a little bit of profit. So that kind of sucks, but it was at 48 when I sold, and I got to fill out like 47 something. So that was my out for, not even a tenth of my position. Basically a tenth of my position in Ethereum I took out, just so I could take a little bit of profits out. Right? It was basically like $200 that I took out, and I was up like almost over 500 in the Coinbase alone. Right? Obviously I'm up over 2,000 I was up over 2,000 in the BitBuy account. So these are just the different areas where I have money and kind of the different ones that I'm buying and the different ones that I'm looking to buy. Right now, like I said, it's just kind of waiting to see what happens over the next few months. One of the things you can look at over here is kind of these trending assets, see which ones are moving and why. So this AAV kind of, a lot of people are looking at it, but you can see that it's really not been doing anything but going down. And yeah, there's not a lot of stuff right now that's doing good moves. Pretty much everything is down. So a lot of these cheaper Ethereum tokens, I would think if you believe in Ethereum for the long run, and you can find some of these cheaper, so the biggest thing is going to be how cheap a lot of these things are in terms of mining, because that's going to be the biggest thing right now is kind of everybody's going to look at how expensive a lot of this is to mine or to hold. So people are going to be a lot more skeptical about some of these Ethereum tokens. But the good thing about Ethereum tokens is that it separates the kind of cost, and they can kind of mitigate some of the costs, and it's not as heavy as Bitcoin in terms of the fees or the mining costs, but it is still pretty high. So So this is the thing, right? A lot of these are different types of blockchain networks a lot of times. So like this one here, Zcash is a cryptocurrency that offers two types of addresses: transparent addresses that are publicly visible on the Zchain blockchain, and shielded addresses that are more private. Coinbase customers can receive Zcash from both transparent and shielded addresses and send Zcash to transparent addresses. Sending to shielded addresses is not supported at this time. So basically protected. You won't know. So you can receive Zcash from shielded addresses. So maybe from like some, I don't know, other country or something, or some crazy, black market thing that maybe doesn't have access, or some government agency, or some, I don't know, somebody that has some shielded account that they don't want people to understand or know that they sent Zcash. So it's kind of a lot of times about privacy, right, and about what these things offer. But taken into perspective, some of these, are pretty big dips for some of these Ethereum tokens. And so that's kind of where I'm trying to get here, is that, like, if you guys want to look for where the next big rip is going to come from. And another one of these interesting one is this ICP, this Internet Computer. Now, obviously, it had this huge rip up, but this is the day that they got listed on Coinbase. So, it was up like 300 or 400% this day, went up to like 900, and now it's all the way back down to kind of where it started at, still a little bit higher, but, still in the 300s. So overall, this thing has just been on a steady grind up, and you can see that this thing is not an Ethereum token, it's a utility token. So it governs the Internet Computing Blockchain Network. The network aims to help developers create websites, enterprise IT systems, internet services, and DeFi applications by installing their code directly on the public internet. ICP can also be staked on, converted into cycles that can be used to power computation for dApps and traditional applications. You down with ICP? Yeah, you know me. ICP reminds me of the Insane Clown Posse. Interesting name, but either way, it's actually a very interesting utility token, because it gives a lot of versatility to web developers, to kind of this new rise in IT systems, because there's really, as much as we think that, we're in this huge technological age, Zoom, and everybody's kind of moving into this new world, we really haven't seen anything. We're really just at the front of this new tech world that we're going to be transitioning into, that's powered and controlled basically by tech. And so the internet is going to be the main source of income for a lot of people. It's going to be the main source of a lot of people's time and energy, and where people get their news, their information, their money, whatever, right? It all comes from the internet. And so things like this are going to be needed to power this kind of ramp up into a new age of computing technology. So I wouldn't overlook things like these, although you see these big sell-offs and you're like, man, that's just brutal. But just understand that this is the hype, right? When it gets pumped, it's going on Coinbase, everybody buys. So you get these huge buy orders, and it goes up to 900. And then what happens? Nobody's buying at 900, so it's just sell. And this is all the people that bought them back here. Sell. And then when it gets down to this 300, everybody's like, it's at 300 again. Bam, they buy up to 670. And this is what I think can happen again. Right, is that it's back down to these levels now. It's at 349. Look at this. When it dipped, it hit 320. It hit 320. 320.68 was the low. So you got to think that it's close to that level now. And if it's holding higher lows, then that area, or even around this area, is going to be a great buy to see if we can get another rip higher. Right, back up to that 670. That's double. Right. It's not quite double, but it's close. Right, it's close to double. 700 would be double, but really, if it's forming higher lows, this thing could move back up to 700 easy. Right, it could even move back up to 900. But I wouldn't, if I got to move from 350 to 650 again, I would take my profits and I would be happy. Even if I got to move up to like 550, I'd probably be taking profits. But that's just me. Not all my profits, but I would be taking half out. That way, I'm still in it for the long kind of move. But you're not going to get caught if this thing just sells off against you like it did here, right? This is the thing about these moves, right? Even if you believe in it for the long term and you buy it at 320 and you're like, okay, I'm holding this thing till 900 no matter what. If it rips to 670 within a day or two, you sell half, because you just doubled your investment. So if you sell half and it goes back down, guess what? You've already made double what you put in, and then you can buy back at this low of 350. If you really believe in it and you're really going on, you can buy back in with double. Now you have double what you initially had. So then if it goes up to 900, you've made 4 times what you, or 5 times whatever you would have initially made if you would have just not sold and just held everything through this dip, right? So this is how you should be looking at it. Same thing with trading stocks, but this is how you should be looking at these kind of coins and how you should be looking to trade them, the kinds of coins you should be looking to get into. All of these things should depend on who you are, what you believe in, where your knowledge base lies. But if you really just want to understand technical analysis and just understand how these charts move, then you just need to understand these support and resistance levels. You just need to understand kind of these trends, where they're trending, and try to follow the trend. So buy into support, sell into the resistance, and see if you can get these things to move to the new highs and maybe even to the moon if you get lucky. So that's how you want to play it. And you don't be greedy, but you can be greedy in a lot of these because they will go insane amounts. But you just want to be aware that a lot of these coins are probably going to go back down to nothing. But doesn't mean they can't go to the moon. So XRP, I'll take a look at this real quick because I know this is another big one. But obviously over the past kind of, ever since we had this huge rip up and then it got halted and kind of investigated by the SEC. So like it's not even available to trade on this anymore, which is interesting. But the other thing too is that it's interesting how this is like a cost efficient cryptocurrency now that so with this kind of transition into trying to find these more cheaper cryptocurrencies, XRP might start to rise. But obviously you can't buy it on Coinbase, so you're going to have to buy it on some other platform. I'm pretty sure with BitBuy you can buy you can buy Ripple on BitBuy. So that's something to be aware, to think about. So you can buy Ripple on BitBuy if you're Canadian. Might be an interesting. Obviously, like Binance and TradeOgre, and there's a ton of them. Maybe even CoinDesk. You can buy XRP. But either way, let's look at the overall chart, and you can see that it's kind of just been trending to the downside for the past few weeks, months, right? Like I said, ever since it kind of got halted and kind of got this big SEC investigation. So it's been on that steady downtrend, but it's still high, holding these higher lows. So this 130 is kind of still acting as support, and it's still kind of bouncing off that area there. So, I really don't want to be like, yeah, this thing's going to go, but if we get this transition into more cost-efficient cryptos, if we get this kind of hype into trying to find the next Doge or the next big mover, because if Doge doesn't go back up and it just steadily goes down, all those people that lost money are going to either get out of the crypto game completely or they're going to look to get back in to find the next one. And if XRP starts to rip, then we could really see a big move, because this thing likes to be very volatile, and because it's been beaten down for the past few weeks, month, we could see a nice big move up. So I do think that you'd want to be watching XRP, watch ICP, watch, Algorand. Like I said, Ethereum obviously is going to be the big one. Some of these tokens, if Ethereum starts to hold support and starts to rip higher, some of these tokens probably good to get into. Other than that, like I said, you want to be understanding support and resistance. You want to be following the charts. You want to be following the trends, and we want to be taking our profits when they're given to us. So yeah. So update, I sold Cardano, I sold some ETH. Obviously, like I said, Cardano's up to new highs now, so wasn't the best sell, but ETH I basically sold close to the top, and now it's starting to sell off. So we'll see where it goes. I'm hoping it holds support here and then starts to move higher. If it moves lower, Ethereum, I'll probably be buying anywhere in the 3,000s. So obviously that's Canadian, so closer to maybe the 28, 29s, maybe low 3,000s in American. We'll see. But I don't expect Ethereum to dip too much, and then I think that we're probably going to see another big run on ETH over the next few months. But over the next few weeks, we might see a sell-off. So just be aware of that, and just be aware that right now you probably want to just sit on hands and kind of watch. But if you want to be a little more risky, like I said, look at some of the coins that I talked about and kind of think about if they fit your overall strategy, and if they're kind of worth your capital being at risk, then, you know, see what happens. Obviously I've lost a little bit more, so Bitcoin or Ethereum's down a little bit more, but yeah, like I said, holding for the long run, guys. So even if it goes back down, I'll just buy some more. But that's how it goes. And yeah, hopefully you guys liked the video. Like I said, please like and subscribe. I try to make some videos like this, talk about some cryptos, give you guys an idea of kind of where we should be looking at buy levels, support levels, where you should maybe be looking to sell. If you have any coins you want me to go over, guys, just put it in the comments below. Just say, hey, take a look at this, you know, take a look at this. I want you to look at, you know, Scale. Take a look at Dash, you know. I want you to look at Zcash again, whatever, Poly, whatever. Just say it, and I'll take a look at it, and I'll give you guys an idea of where I think you should be buying or where you should be selling, or if you're already in it, maybe, you know, I'll give you an idea of where resistance levels are and maybe where you should be looking for profit targets. But other than that, I'm gonna get out of here, and yeah, basically 100%. Like every crypto that I'm in, I'm up almost 100% on. Well, at least 50%. So that's that. And like I said, just follow the trend. The trend is your friend. The trend is your friend. Yeah. All right, guys. Have a good one.